Now that I'm of an age where I'm closer to the end of my life than the beginning, I think it's fair to say that unless I live to some record breaking age, and based on my current diet of carib and fried split peas, I think that is very unlikely. Um, I am closer to the end of life, so I get to think about that a lot more than people who are not at that point. And there's a lot of time for reflecting and thinking about what you could have done differently and that kind of stuff. And when I think back, one of the things I realize is that as a child, you know how people always saying, when I was little, I wanted to be a doctor, policeman, in my son's case, a Gulf City taxi driver. He thought all those singles they carried around meant they were rich, and he said they always had lots of girls. Anyway, yeah, whatever you wanted to be. I realized that I never really wanted to be anything. And I don't remember anybody ever asking me what I wanted to be either. Well, not my parents, at any rate. So I just drifted along blissfully doing this, that, and the other. At school, I picked up the subjects I was going to do pretty much at random, or I had some really silly reason for picking one over the other. I dropped French in Form 3 because it had too many irregular verbs. I didn't take AdMath at O levels because I didn't like the teacher. I dropped history after 6-1 because every time I tried to study, I fell asleep. So I said to myself, well, this ain't happening. I really hope they've changed the way they teach West Indian history for A's, because talk about boring. I didn't have, to my recollection, any plan for what I wanted to do or what I wanted to become. Did I want to get married, have kids, have a career? I didn't have a clue. Actually, as an adult, I have envied persons who decided, like early in life, this is me. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm going to do. Not me. I finished O levels just before I turned 16, and A levels was there to be done, so I did A levels. I took econ because I couldn't find anything else that went with English literature and history that fit into my timetable. I did English literature because I did well at it at O's, and I did well at it because I like to read. And well, I told you what happened with history. Anyway, when I finished my A's, my dad said, university is the next thing. And I said, yeah, I guess. He said I should apply to places in the UK because my brothers were there. So I did. I didn't get through the first couple of places I applied to because, to be honest, I didn't work very hard for A's. I spent a lot of time looking through the window in a little room we call the coffin, staring out at the promenade and wondering what was the story with all these pregnant women every Tuesday. But that's another story. So, of course, although I passed my exams, my grades weren't stellar. So I decided I would try Canada instead. My father said, that's not the plan. Everybody's supposed to go to the UK. But I was never very good at sticking to the plan. So I applied to a couple of places, and I was accepted by McMaster University. Now, I had applied to McMaster because my aunt lived in Hamilton, where the university was, and my father thought that I could go and live by her and go to school from there. Him and his plans. I knew the idea of living with my aunt was akin to Chinese water torture, and I knew that that wasn't happening. But I didn't tell him that until later on. He said, I think you should do international relations because I really don't know why. I have no idea how he came up with that. But it went with having econ, and I didn't have any alternative. So I was like, okay, yeah, international relations. So I signed up for first year econ. Hated it. While my A-level teacher was into macroeconomics and lots of essays, this guy, he was just mumbling into the whiteboard, and he never met an equation, graph, or chart that he didn't like. One of the girls who lived on my floor, yeah, I lived in dorms, told you, she was also in the class. So we agreed that every week, one of us would take notes and the other one would sleep. Well, you know, many a week we would jump up at the end of class saying, I thought it was your week. Anyway, I passed first year econ. Lord only knows how. I mean, I never even got the text. But then I realized I had another year of econ before I could get into international relations. And I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. I was ace in English literature though. I remember at the beginning of the year, we had to do a language skills test that was corrected by a computer, which then spewed out a list of the areas that you were weak in and needed to work on. Well, some people got pages and pages of stuff. If you see people, I got one page with one recommendation for better organizing my paragraphs. So I thought, shit, this is the subject for me. So I did English literature. You had an option to do combined honors, which was a year longer, and which you had to maintain a 75% average for. So I signed up to do literature and drama, combined honors. Recently, I heard an actor on one of those late night talk shows describing the first time he went into a theater to audition for a role. He was just like in his teens. And he talked about the characters that he encountered from the time he entered the theater. And he said he just knew that that was the place for him. And I really related to that because that was how I felt when I entered my second year theater arts class. The teacher alone was like something out of a movie. Well, a movie about drama teachers. With her wild hair and boho fashion sense. And everybody in the class was a character. Weird and unique. And I thought, yeah, I belong here. These are my people. The truth is, though, I was never very good. I loved it. I loved being in this space. But I think to be a good actor, you have to be able to empty yourself so that you can take on this other person. And I was never able to empty myself enough to be really believable as anybody else. When I left university, I joined this drama group called Teachers in Theatre. I remember we did this play, which was going to be on Play of the Month. Any of you old enough to remember Play of the Month? Anyway, it was made up of a series of scenes that related to being on death row. In one of the scenes, I was this lifer who was explaining to another female prisoner all the ways she could kill her husband. For some reason, I really enjoyed that scene. But in another scene, I was the wife of a man who was about to be hanged, and she was meeting with him for the last time to say her farewells. That was when I realized I wasn't very good. I didn't like the guy who was playing my husband, and I could never get out of my own head enough to really embrace the role and bring the scene to life. The little voice in the back of my head kept saying, I don't like this man, no? But in the theater was one of the times that I felt, yeah, this is where I belong. This is what I should be doing. Who knows? Maybe if I'd stuck with it, I could have been pretty mediocre. And then there's relationships. Definitely no plan there either. If I had to think of one sentence that defines my relationships from my teenage years to now, it would be, well, that didn't turn out how I thought it would. And very seldom in a good way. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of luck with relationships. I don't know if luck is the thing, though. Since I am the only constant, I have to assume that the problem is me. I've gone through several phases. In my early 20s, I was convinced that men were dogs and I had to treat them as badly as they treated me. Well, that went off the rails pretty quickly. I realized that vengeful female is not really my preferred person. But I gave it a good try. I left a few men in my wake thinking, who was that masked woman? And then I hit my late 20s and early 30s. And I hit what I like to call my TSPCA phase. I call it that because I took in a lot of strays. People who I convinced myself needed me, when what they really needed was intense therapy and probably mood-stabilizing medication. But that was my second and also very unsuccessful phase. Then I met the man that I was going to marry. And I did marry him, not because I was madly in love or thought the sun rose in his eyes, but because he really wanted to marry me. And so I thought, well, why not? Of course, if I ask myself that question now, I can probably come up with a long list because it was a spectacularly bad idea for both of us, which my parents, in retrospect, said they knew from early on, and which, if I'm honest, I knew before the wedding as well. But it had reached the point where things were happening. People were choosing fabric and shoes, and oh yes, the wedding itself. My mother was so disappointed. Her only daughter. I guess she had visions of me in white with a veil and flowers and wedding shoes. I wore ballet shoes. The dress was a kind of creamish ochre kind of color. It ended at the knee. There was no veil. I didn't even get my makeup done professionally. The shoes, for some reason, really upset my mother. Oh, and the bouquet. My bouquet was made out of coquillier broom and money bush. Mind you, it looked great. Thanks to the talents of my friend Anne and Gwyneth. And it lasted longer than the marriage. So, if you want a bouquet that lasts forever, you can't go wrong with coquillier and money bush. Anyway, the wedding happened, and we got married. And it was a bad idea. And then we weren't married. After that, I realized I was okay. And I stayed on my own for quite a while. And my rational mind told me that I should probably stay that way. Actually, in later years, my father would also tell me that. He said, in life, you have to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And you are not good at choosing men, and you should stop doing it. I'm taking his advice at the moment, but that's another thing for another time. So yeah, I was on my own. I was single. This was my pelican phase, which was pretty good, I have to admit, except for the odd times when I would wonder what was happening. I was good. I was happy. I was liming. I was drinking. I was sharing an apartment with a good friend who spent all his time liming and drinking. My son was away at university. Life was nice. I was broke, but that's pretty much a constant with me. So anyway, then I let myself fall into the trap again. And I realized that the reason I did that was because somewhere deep down in the dim recesses, I was carrying that fantasy. Yeah, I suppose fantasy would be the word. Of the husband and wife, the white picket fence, the 2.3 children, or whatever it is. And so I went for it. I went for it. I was all in. Or at least as all in as I get. Because I'm never really all in. But I was pretty in. And that went on for quite a few years. And I told myself, yeah, I could do this. I could do this whole woman with partner and child and conjugal bliss business. And then, of course, like everything else, that went south and ended really badly. Really, really badly. I mean, blew up your life badly. But yeah, that's relationships. Another day, I will tell you some more about what aimless looks like. But I'm going to stop there for now. Stay safe, and thanks for listening. Till next time, just saying.